Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to Digital Social Science YouTube channel. Today let us discuss the third lesson of history, that is the impact of British rule in India. The impact of British rule in India. With the help of mind maps, flow charts, important points with charts, maps and pictures prepared by myself, M. Rukhsana, Assistant Teacher, Galib High School, Cantonment, Bellary. In this unit, you will learn about administrative and judicial system. In this, civil services, judicial system, police system, military system, land tax policies, that is zamindari system, mahalwari system and rayatwari system. Modern education, Lord Macaulay, Woods Commission, law during British rule, regulating law, Pitt India law, charters law, etc. The impact of the British rule in India. Let us move with the intro. The British East India Company fulfilled its commercial needs in the beginning as a trade company. After getting India under control by employing various clever means, the British thought of strengthening their hold over India permanently. What they thought? To hold over India permanently. Then, India was devoid of one nation concept and was scattered into various kingdoms. The British integrated the whole of India under one administrative and political structure. They integrated the whole of India under one administrative and political structure. Education, judiciary, land taxes, trade and agriculture and other various areas of activities were regulated under various laws and administrative system. This brought in a new structure to India. While implementing all these measures, they never forget to protect their financial interest. What they not forget here? They to protect their financial interest. The British East India Company implemented various administrative experiments in order to achieve a new order in India. The first concept is administrative and judicial system. In this, first one, civil services. Lord Cornwallis introduced the administration of civil services. Who introduced the administration of civil services? Lord Cornwallis introduced the administration of civil services. The system of appointing employees for the purpose of trade was done by the East India Company from the beginning. The company, means the East India Company, also provided permission for private workers to trade. By using these opportunities, employers made money became corrupt through illegal means. So, to control this, In 1773, the government of England implemented Regulating Act in India. In 1773, the government of England implemented Regulating Act in India. The aim of Regulating Act was, as the name suggests, to enforce control. In 1800, Lord Cornwallis opened Fort William College in Calcutta. In 1800, Lord Cornwallis opened Fort William College in Calcutta for the benefit of people aspiring to join civil services. But this initiation did not find support from the directors of the East India Company. As a result, all the appointments till 1853, as the result, all the appointments till 1853 were done by the directors. From 1853 onwards, the appointments for civil services were done through competitive examinations. From 1853 onwards, the civil services were done through competitive examinations. This did not benefit Indians much. The British continued to suspect the efficiency of the Indians. Lord Cornwallis argued. What he argued here? All the natives of Hindustan are completely corrupt. All the natives of Hindustan are completely corrupt. As a result, only lower grade jobs were given to Indians. Only lower grade jobs were given to the Indians. Next, the judicial system. In judicial system, a new judicial system started finding roots when the British rule began taking over from the Mughal rule. After the Battle of Buxar, the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam handed over the Diwani rights, the authority to collect tax. Which tax here? Land taxes to the British. The authority to collect land taxes to the British. With this, dual administration came into effect in Bengal region. The dual administration came into effect in Bengal region. This is called as dual governance. Under this, the authority to collect land taxes, civil and judiciary were given to the Indian officials, whereas the British retained the authority of managing the revenue collected. Later on, the British thought of bringing more centralized judicial system in India. With the implementation of this system, the British overtook the authority of the Mughal and established their supremacy in India. This was attained by implementing new judicial system in India. When it is according the administrative plan devised by Warren Hastings, who took over the administration as governor in 1772. To two types of courts were needed to be established in each district. One is a Diwani Adalat as a civil court. Another one is the Faujdari Adalat as a criminal court. One is Diwani Adalat, another one is Faujdari Adalat. In these civil courts, Hindus were dispensed justice as per the Hindus' scriptures and the Muslims as per the Shariat. Slowly, the British legal procedures were introduced in the criminal courts. Civil courts came under the administration of European officers. Civil courts came under the administration of European officers, though the criminal courts were under the control of Qazis. They were functioning under the supremacy of European officers. Now next is police system. In the police system, the police are in charge of maintaining the internal law and order situation. Lord Cornwallis implemented the efficient police system in India for the first time. He created the new post of Superintendent of Police, that is SP, and he divided a district into many stations and put every station under a kotwal. Similarly, he put every village under the care of Chowkidar. Kotwal was made accountable for thief, crimes and other law violations at village level. The severe draft of 1770 led to the weak law and order situation. Hence, the entire police system was brought under the control of the British officers. The system of appointing British magistrates started in the year 1781. In the 1781, the appointing British magistrates started. The police officers were under the power of the magistrate. The police officers were under the power of the magistrates. The police system underwent continuous changes. The police system was continuously changing. In 1861, the police law was implemented. This law is the base of good law and order administration. But hence, Indians were not appointed for the post of officers. Hence, the Indians were not appointed for the post of officers. In 1902, the Police Commission law allowed the appointment of suitable educational qualification. In 1902, the Police Commission was allowed the appointment of suitable educational qualification for the post of the police officers. In spite of all these measures, the discrimination against the Indians did not end. Next is military system. The military was the base of administration during the British rule. The British appointed the Indians for the military and took the entire India under their control with the help of the military. They protected their supremacy by addressing the challenges posed by outside as well as inside forces with the help of the military. The officers were again the Britishers here. Who is the officers here? The Britishers. the Indians could reach the rank of only Subedars, but the highest post available to the British only. The highest post were getting to the British. Most of the Indians were coolie soldiers. Most of the Indians were coolie soldiers. The British government accepted the recommendation of Peel in the year 1857. What is a Peel Commission here? Because there was discriminating between Indian soldiers and then British soldiers. For that purpose, Indians put it the Peel Commission recommendation in front of the British government in the year 1857. Based on these recommendations, the military system was redesigned. Our next concept is land tax policies. The East India Company had to pay 4 lakh pounds to the British government for its control over Bengal province. The East India Company had to pay 4 lakh pounds to the British government to its control over Bengal province. In order to fulfill this commitment, the company had to stabilize its financial interest in secure manner. Hence, it implemented many new land tax policies. For example, permanent settlement, Mahalwari system and Rayatwari system. Now first one is permanent zamindari system. In permanent zamindari system, Lord Cornwallis implemented a new land tax policy in Bengal and in Bihar. Regions. During 1793, in order to generate steady revenue per annum, this was called permanent zamindari system. Under this system, zamindar became the landowner. And the zamindar was expected to pay the agreed land taxes to the company on a set date every year. Zamindar should pay the agreed land taxes to the company. He was free to collect any amount of land taxes from the farmers and could retain the excess money collected. And this benefited the zamindar more. If the zamindar was unable to collect land taxes due to flood and famine and pay the company, the ownership of the lands was taken away by the company. Here, both the zamindar and the company was benefited by this system, but the farmers were the grave sufferers. This system created a new social group that added the British. The farming laborers suffered due to irregular working opportunities in the farming lands, and they were exploited and had to lead a life of insecurity. Because this system was extended to Bihar, already has showed Bihar, Bengal, Odisha, it is here, Andhra Pradesh, and Varanasi region, it is in Uttar Pradesh. Varanasi region, it is in Uttar Pradesh. According to Charles Metcalfe, the Indian farmers were born in debt, lived in debt, and died in debt due to the land tax policies of the British. Next is Mahalwari system. In Mahalwari system, the company government entered an agreement at the level of Mahals with the regard to payment of land tax in Uttar Pradesh, in many parts of Madhya Pradesh, Punjab, Delhi. Mahal means taluk. Mahal means taluk. R.M. Bird and James Thomson. R.M. Bird and James Thomson implemented this system. Which system? Mahalwari system. There were differences in the implementation of this system from region to region. This system was implementation of differences in region to region. The big and small zamindars were part of this system, since the company officers fixed more land tax than the expected production from the field. The company officers fixed more than land tax than the expected production from the field. Many zamindars had to lose their ownership of the lands. The marginal farmers and agricultural laborers who were dependent on these zamindars also suffered due to this. Next one is Rayatwari system. In Rayatwari system, the Rayatwari system was first implemented in Baramahal region by Alexander Reed in the year 1792. This system was later implemented in Madras and Mysore region also by Thomas Munro in 1801. Most of these regions had become part of the British Empire by that time. Under this system, both the farmers and the company were directly linked. But in the permanent and then Mahalwari system, the zamindars and Mahalwar were giving to the company. Collection of the money, collection of the taxes were giving to the company. But in the Rayatwari system, the farmers were giving directly to the company. Under this system, both the farmers and the company were directly linked. The tiller of the land was recognized as the owner of the land. The owner had to pay 50% of produce as land tax to the company government. The land tax had 30 years tenure. The tax could be revived after this tenure. Though the small farmers were given land ownership, they were subjected to more suffering due to heavy land taxes because they have to pay 50% production. The officials took punitive actions to collect land taxes. The farmers had to borrow from the money lenders whenever the crops failed, whenever the crops became famine or flood, and they had to sell their lands whenever they failed to repay the loans. Though the company government claimed that the new system benefits the farmers. The irony was that more farmers had to lose their lands due to its implementation. Let's see the impact of the British land tax policy. The new class of zamindars who exploited the farmers was created. The farmers who were subjected to the exploitations of the zamindars became landless slowly. Land became a commodity here. Land became a commodity. Loans could be raised by mortgaging the lands. Many zamindars also had to mortgage their lands in order to pay the land taxes. The agriculture sector became commercialized. The agriculture sector became the commercialized and had to grow raw materials needed by industries back in England. The last one is the money lenders became strong. Our next topic is the modern education system. The traditional education of Indians was in practice continuously. The traditional education of Indians was in practice continuously. Certain changes occurred in the traditional education system during the rule of Muslim kings during the Middle Ages. Later, new changes occurred during the British rule during in the 18th century. New schools were started for the children of British and Europeans living in India. Since these facilities were never extended to the locals, these facilities were never extended to the locals. It was of no use for them. Warren Hastings facilitated the expansion of the modern education in India. In the year 1781, he started Calcutta Madrasa. Calcutta Madrasa. It is in Calcutta. Jonathan Duncan, a British individual, started Sanskrit College in Banaras. Sanskrit College in Banaras in the year 1791. But it was Charles Grant who pressed for the universalized of universalization of British education in India. The expansion of the British education India received special support after the appointment of Lord William Bentinck in 1828 as the Governor General of India. After the appointment of Lord William Bentinck in the year 1828 as the Governor General of India, Benedict appointed Macaulay as a member of Governor General Executive Committee. Member of Governor General's Executive Committee. Macaulay was also appointed as the chairperson of the Committee on Education also. The report on education submitted by him in 1835 became the base of modern education in India. In his policy aimed at the creation of a new class of Indians who are Indian by body but British in intelligence, opinions and taste. Opinion and taste. The use of English medium in Indian learning system started after 1830. After the 1830s. Another important development included the establishment of universities in India. The Governor General Lord Dalhousie established universities in Calcutta, Bombay, and in Madras. As per the suggestions of Charles Woods Commission, 1854. After this, the education started becoming universalization in India. These are the modern education system which was started by the British. You can see the images of Lord William Bentinck, Macaulay, Lord Dalhousie. Let's see the impact of British education in India. Indians could develop modernity, secularism, democratic attitudes, and rationality along with nationalistic ideals. Impetus was received for the local literature and languages also. This facilitated unity in thinking process among the educated class. Periodicals started emerging. These scrutinized the policies and working of the government, which in turn enabled the Indians to have critical opinions on various issues, which is turn enabled the Indians to have critical opinions on various issues. The new social and religious reformation movement also emerged. The thoughts of thinking like J.S. Mill, Rousseau, and Montesquieu brought fresh thinking in the mind of educated youth of India. The freedom struggles that were taking place across the globe influenced the Indians also. Indians could understand and appreciate their rich traditions. Like this, the new thinking and cultural perception that emerged due to the British education system created a new generation of Indians with progressive attitudes. These are the impact of British education in India. Till here, we have discussed about the administration and judicial system, educational system, and the land taxes. Now, the last topic is constitutional development. Along with the British administration, problems also grew in India. In order to alleviate the problems, to control the problems, reformation in administration became important. And these reformations needed to address the demands of Indians. The British attempted to create different rules in the form of law and tried to implement them. These types of laws helped the evolutions of constitution in India. We will study this attempt in brief. Laws implemented during the rule of East India Company. The first one is Regulating Act. Let's see the features of Regulating Act. It was started in the year 1773. Before the implementation of the Act, there were the presidencies under British rule. Before the implementation of the Act, there were the 3 presidencies under British rule. They are Bengal, Madras and Bombay. Already has shown in the map. All these three were independent administrative units. Under Regulating Act, the Bengal Presidency, under Regulating Act, the Bengal Presidency gained control over the other two presidencies. Which are those? That is Madras and Bombay. The governor of Bengal became the Governor General of all the three presidencies. The Governor of Bengal became the Governor General of the all three presidencies. Which are those? That is Bengal, Madras and Bombay. Madras, Bombay and Calcutta. The Governor General was authorized to direct, exercise control and to supervise over the other two presidencies. The Bombay and Madras presidencies could not declare war on anyone or enter into peace agreement without permission, approval of the Governor General of Bengal Presidency. And the board of directors of the company only during acute emergencies, if there is any emergencies, that time only they were entitled to act independently. According to this act, the Supreme Court of Judicature was established in Calcutta. Supreme Court was established in Calcutta. In this central court, one Chief Justice and 3 ordinary judges were there. Like this, as the name of the Regulating Act suggests, the act was aimed at regulating the company affairs and its administration in India. Let's move to the another act, that is a Pitt India Act of 1784. In the Pitt India Act, there were many inconsistencies in the Regulating Act of 1773. In order to rectify them and also clearly outline the power of the East India Company and the British government, Pitt India Act was implemented. The government of England restricted the powers of the East India Company. The government of England restricted the powers of the East India Company. A new institution named Board of Controllers. The new institution is Board of Controllers, consisting of 6 commissioners, was started. The Board of Controllers replaced the Board of Directors. The Board of Controllers replaced the Board of Directors. This board had powers to direct and control the issues related to land taxes, military and civil areas. What they are controlling? They are controlling the issues related to land taxes, military and civil areas. The Board of Control came into existence in the place of Board of Directors. This act declared that the Indians have attained their paramount power in the name of the British Empire only, but not on their own, and curtailed the political rights of Indians conclusively. It declared that the areas under the possessions of the East India Company are the integral part of the British Empire. Hence, the government of England is the ultimate rule of India. Lastly, the government of England is the next. We will move to the another act, that is a Charter Acts. The main aim of Charter Acts was to renew the license of the East India Company. The Charter Acts of 1793, 1813, 1833 and 1853 were implemented to achieve this aim. As and when the charters were implemented once in 20 years, once in 20 years, the new rules and regulations found fit by the British government was included in these acts. Among these, the Charters Acts of 1813 and 1833 are important for many reasons. Let's see the Charter Act of 1813. This act licensed the East India Company to stay for another 20 years in India. This act licensed the East India Company to stay for another 20 years in India. Before the implementation of this act, a demand to allow any interested person to carry out trade in India was there. This act allowed this demand and authorized all interested persons to carry out trade in India. With this act, the free trade era started in India. With the Charter Act of 1813, the free trade era was started in India. A new era of license and authorizations started. The board of directors was vested with the powers to appoint the Governor General as the Commander-in-Chief. The power to appoint the Governor General and the Commander-in-Chief. The churches were allowed to enter India officially. The Christian missionaries were directed to enrich the knowledge of Indians and also enhance the moral and spiritual life of Indians. Many Christian missionaries started arriving in India after this act. The expansion of Christianity and English education started taking place. Because of these developments, the Charter Act of 1813 is a historic act. Let's move the another Charter Act, that is a 1833 Act. Charter Act of 1833. This act aimed at improving the Indian situation. And it also licensed East India Company to remain in India for another 20 years. The main aspects of this act are: the Governor General of Bengal. The Governor General of Bengal was named as the Governor General of India. Governor General of Bengal became the Governor General of India. The Governor General was vested with powers to direct, control and supervising all trades in India. The central government of Bengal had the final right to decide on issues like war, peace and diplomatic relationship with the princely states of India. The central government of Bengal had the final right to decide on issues. Which issues? Like war, peace and diplomatic relationship with the princely states of India. The Governor General was mandated to put his differences of opinion with executive committee member in writing whenever he differed with the majority opinion. The act banned any discrimination based on religion, birth, skin color, etc. The Governor General was mandated to appoint a law professional as member to his executive committee. All British companies were allowed to have trade relationship in India. All British companies were allowed to have trade relationship with India or in India. The Charter Act of 1833 throws more light on the internal situation of India and also the various political developments present in England during 1830s. Next act is the British Government Act from 1858 to 1947. The Sipahi Mutiny took place due to the misadministration of the East India Company and Anti-Indians Act in 1857. As a result, the administration of India was handed over to the British Queen from the East India Company. During this period, Indian Government Act of 1858, 1861, 1892, 1909, 1919 and 1935 were implemented. Due to various political developments during different periods, make these acts historically very important. In this first one, Indian Government Act of 1858. This act needs to be understood in the backdrop of civil and military unrest that took place in the year 1857. The administration of India came under the direct rule of British government. The Queen of England, Victoria, announced that all-round development of India would be ensured by the British government on November 1st, 1858. The following are the important features of this act. Let's see the features. The license of East India Company was cancelled and India was brought under the direct administration of the Queen. Second feature, the post of Governor General was changed into Viceroy. Lord Canning became the first Viceroy of India. Lord Canning became the first Viceroy of India. A new post called Secretary of State for India was created in the British government. The secretary was part of the British cabinet and was responsible for the administration of India. A Council of Act was created in India to assist the secretary in the administration. The council had 15 members. This is an act about the Indian government of 1858. Next act is the Indian Council Act of 1861. This is an important act that came into effect after the 1857. With this act, Indians were allowed to participate in the process of creating laws. In order to understand the aspirations of Indians, representations was given to Indians. This is called as policy of assertion. What is a policy of assertion? In order to understand the aspirations of Indians, representations was given to Indians. That is a policy of assertion. Let's see the features of this act. Indians were nominated to a council of Viceroy as non-official members. Indians were nominated to the council of Viceroy as non-official members. Viceroy was authorized to proclaim ordinances in case of emergency. This is an act of Indian Council of 1861. Now, let's discuss about the Indian Council Act of 1892. This act is the continuation of Act Indian Council Act of 1861. This Act of 1892 further extended the participation of Indians in the legislative bodies. The critical view expressed by the Congress organization towards the British administration led to this expansion of Indian representation in the governance. Let's see the features of this act now. The number of additional members in the regional and central legislative bodies was increased. The regional and the central legislative body was increased in the members. The legislative council's authority was increased further by allowing discussions on budget related issues. Provision was made to question the government on public issues by serving 6 days notice in advance. The next act is the Indian Council Act of 1909. This act is also called as Minto-Morley Reformation Act. Minto-Morley Reformation Act. During the formulation and implementation of this act, Lord Minto was the Viceroy of the India and Lord Morley was the Secretary of State for India. This act was used to divide and rule India. This act was used for the divide and rule India. Let's see the features of the Indian Council Act of 1909. The total number of Central Legislative Council members was increased to 60 from 16. There was 16 members. Afterwards, it was increased to the 60 members. The number of regional council members was also increased. The number of regional council members also increased. Representation of the regional council was allowed through election for the first time. In order to provide separate representations for Muslims, separate electoral college was created. Separate electorate college was created. The next act is Indian Council Act of 1919. Since Indians took active part in the First World War, Lord Montagu, who was the Secretary of the State for India, argued in favor of providing more representations to Indians in the matter of administration. Who is arguing here? Lord Montagu. He was in favor of allowing people's participation in the formation of government gradually. Lord Chelmsford, who the Viceroy then he declared various reformative measures to the British Parliament on 20th August 1917. The Indian Council Act of 1919 was formulated by accepting this report. This act is called as Montagu-Chelmsford Reformative Act. Let's see the features of this act. The act formulated bicameral legislative body, lower house and then upper house were formed. Diarchy was allowed at regional governments. An High Commissioner was appointed for India. Promised to improve local self-government. Provisional budget was separated from central budget. Provisional budget was separated from central budget. Separate electoral college was extended for Muslims, Sikh, Anglo-Indians and Europeans. Let's see last act of Indian Council Act of 1935 and the last topic of this lesson. This act acted as the base for the formation of Indian Constitution. Which act? Indian Government Act of 1935. The report submitted in 1928 under the leadership of Motilal Nehru was instrumental in the formation of the Act. Most the provisions in the Indian Constitution are based on this Act. This Act allowed the formation of fully responsible government by Indians. This Act was applicable both to the Indian principalities and also the British India regions. Let's see the features of Indian Government Act of 1935. A federal system of Indian principalities, British governed regions and dominion states was formed. Reserve Bank of India was established in the year 1935. Diarchy was established at the center. Diarchy was cancelled at the regional level and autonomy was granted. The last feature of this act is the federal court was established. One should understand the various political developments that resulted in the formation of various acts that aided the formation of Indian Constitution. Though these all acts serve the purpose of British interest and they also include the aspirations of Indians for the self-governance. These acts should be understood as a result of struggle led by Indians for self-rule. Thank you. Please subscribe this channel for upcoming lessons.